The regular monthly meeting of the Board of Trustees of the Village of Lake Barrington is Tuesday, September 5th, 2017. The clerk will please call the roll.
President Richardson.
Here.
Trustee Burke.
Here.
Trustee Donnelly. Trustee Mitchell. Trustee Rigby.
Here.
Trustee Schaller.
Here.
Trustee Thompson.
Here.
Thank you very much. Would you all please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance to our flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Agenda item number 4 this evening is approval of the minutes from our meeting last month, August 1st. Are there questions or comments or edits for the clerk with regard to those minutes? All right, there being none, Chair would like a motion to approve the minutes of the regular meeting of the Board of Trustees from August 1st, 2017.
So.
By Trustee Schaller, may I please second? By Trustee Thompson, thank you both. The clerk will please call the roll.
Trustee Schaller.
Yes.
Trustee Thompson.
Yes.
Trustee Burke.
Yes.
Trustee Rigby.
Aye.
President Richardson.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you very much. Under President's remarks this evening, I just want to give a quick update on the comprehensive plan. Rory, it is my hope that we will vote on this at our October meeting. We've all been given a hard copy of it to review. I spent considerable time with the document last week and do have some edits I'll be recommending to all of you prior to our consideration of it. And I am very pleased that the Planning Commission's hard work here has yielded a very good document that will build upon our past success and keep us in the right path going forward. So nothing else in the President's remarks other than I have a good friend who's a mayor down in Texas. And whenever we think of us having a bad day, we don't know what a bad day is. And I pray for those folks. It is just dreadful what's going on down there, just terrible. Agenda item number 6, this is the first opportunity in the agenda for the public to address the board on non-agenda items. Anyone seeking recognition? Warren? Yeah. And while we know you, for the record, we ask you to please introduce yourself.
My name is Warren Fisher. I'm a longtime resident of Lake Barrington, 25-30 years I think by now. I live at 22319 North Linden Drive, at Residence Development, off of Kelsey Road. And with the Speedway service station and Mark going in rapidly, I was curious, and so I asked us to review the drawings. And I came to visit the village last week and reviewed the drawings. One of the things I was concerned about, and there was a lot of discussion during the whole process of actually approving the Speedway going in, was the congestion and the safety on Kelsey Road. And I thought that during the course of the review process that there was going to be some type of control of the entrance and exit on Kelsey Road. Based on my review of the drawings, it doesn't seem to be a lot of control there. You'll be able to access the station coming southeast on Northwest Highway, but making a left turn onto Kelsey Road and then enter the station. And the only way you can get back to Northwest Highway, at least without control at that exit point and entrance point, would be to take a left and make cross traffic, get back into the turning lane so you can make a left turn getting back on Northwest Highway. The congestion is pretty substantial there in the morning, especially during rush hour, kids go to school and what have you. And I thought there would be some control at that exit point that would be a right turn only, so that you can take a right on Kelsey Road, go down Pepper Road, take another right, go through the industrial park, and then exit back on Northwest Highway in the direction we're going in at a traffic-controlled intersection of Pepper Road and Northwest Highway. I don't see those controls at all in the drawing. You're going to be able to take a right or a left out of that entrance and exit, and that shouldn't be. That should be a right turn only. I think there's going to be a stop sign there, but with no indication of turning right only at all. Another way to police that would be to actually have a curb put in there so you can only turn right and exit out. Like you can if you were going on Northwest, if you were on Route 22 and you were going west on Route 22 and you were going to enter the shopping center where the Ace hardware store is, you can make a right into there, exit, get into that where the Ace is, but you can only make a right back onto 22. If you want to get back on 22 and go left, you have to go out the back exit, make a left off of the street there. So I don't know, again, I looked at the drawings, but I didn't see any controls whatsoever on Kelsey Road, and I am very, very concerned about that.
Warren, thanks for sharing your concern, and I'll confess, off the top of my head, I don't remember every detail about it, but this is an important issue, and I will ask the staff to make a detailed review of those plans and advise on that. I may regret, but I thought we did talk about this issue, and we did talk about the right turn only.
Yeah,
I thought we did.
I was at many of those meetings. That's why I came to look at the drawings.
I'll ask council to comment.
It was my recollection that it was supposed to be right turn only, and I haven't looked at the plans in some time. We can certainly look at that, but I believe it was a requirement as far as the approval for the traffic pattern through the Illinois Department of Transportation and Lake County Department of Transportation.
I thank you for saying it that way, because it triggers that some of those issues are driven not by village code or plans, but by Lake County DOT and Illinois DOT regulation. But we'll get the answer to that, because it's a very important question. Andy, did you want to say something?
No, I was going to say that was also my same recollection. I was going to ask the question, whose drawings are we talking about? So these are speedway drawings?
No, the ones that are on file here at the village, I mean, there's lots of them, but I was specifically looking at the road.
Yeah, there's nothing in the permits or when I said permits, the Lake LC permit or the design of the plans that were presented for approval that would limit the turn restrictions. So right now you've got the approved plans, which were prepared, reviewed, and approved by the village and presented to us and the Lake County DOT, provides for that to be a no turn restriction. Normally, if you had a turn restriction, LCDO top would require we call it a pork chop generally, but a curb structure that limits restricts the turn movements. None of that is present in the plans. Now, and then Warren was in the office last week, I think.
Yeah.
We were looking at. I have not gotten back to the history of the commitments that were made, but it's not in the approved plan that I have found, which is a plan development. It looks like a plan development. Maybe it's not technically a plan development, but it is a conditional approval and zoning action. So we treat it as such. And I could find no evidence that was codified in any or permitted at any level to be a restricted intersection.
So you're saying LC Dot did not come in and make that declaration?
And if they would have, just knowing from my experience with LC Dot, they would have required structure, because there's no way that it could be managed if it was simply a driveway as it is right now. So there might be something embedded in one of the approvals somewhere, but it didn't capture itself into the LCDOT permit or the approved plans that were finalized and are used for the construction.
Does LC Dot have the final say on that, or is that something that we could impose ourselves? What are they?
Well, I think they would honor the request of the villages if that was the case. But also LCDOT looks at traffic volumes generated and other things, and they have a design standard that they use themselves. So absent a restriction, that would be interpreted as an either way intersection, or either way. And if it was restricted, I'm almost certain that at that location it would require a directional.
Then I would recommend, as you've already said, that we reconcile the conversations that we had on the subject, during the approval process with what Lake County DOT has come up with and what currently exists in the drawings, and go back and do our best to reconcile
I
this.
mean, it's really not, like you said, an intersection, not really an intersection, it's, the
Correct.
front yard's off an intersection, so, you know, to get back on Kelsey Road so that you can get back onto Northwest Highway in the same direction, you're gonna have to cross oncoming traffic, they're gonna be turning off, and you have to get into the turning lane, that, it's just congested as it is there now, and it was a big issue when we were going through this whole process, and the community was very concerned about the congestion and the safety that would be the result of increased traffic there. I don't know what traffic studies were done, I don't know what the volume of traffic they expect to increase on Kelsey Road and all of that, I haven't seen any of that. But I know it's not going to be safe to do that, I know it's going to add to the congestion, and especially during the hours of 6 to 9:30 or so, and again in the evening. I mean, there is the control on Northwest Highway, you only enter and exit in one way, but, so I just wanted to bring that.
Yeah, no, thank you for bringing it to our attention, and what we, as Andy was saying, what we'll commit to doing is finding out what the real state of play is, and then we can figure out what the appropriate response is.
Yeah. Well, I just don't know, what's the timing of the station to be open? What's the, I'm just curious.
Yeah, they lost, because of the rain this summer, they lost a lot of construction time, so
Yeah.
I've been out of the country a lot lately, so I haven't spoken with anybody, but I think we're looking at least a month and a half.
So,
Yeah, I think we've been hearing more in your office, at least I have, maybe early November to get it done.
so I would think these have to be addressed and resolved prior to the next board meeting.
Oh, yeah, we don't need a board meeting.
Yeah.
Trust me. No, this is just work that we'll go do, you know, behind the scenes, so thanks for bringing it to our attention, we'll get on it right away.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else seeking recognition? If not, we will move to there is no consent agenda, so we can move to agenda item number 8, the treasurer's report. Mrs. Hirsch, and we have our accountants from Waterback and Ahmed with us tonight, Matt Barron, and we'll present the audit report.
Yes, I'll introduce Matt. Matt Barron is the partner here with Waterback and Amon. Staff is out for 2 weeks, a week and a half this year. Everything went absolutely fabulous. Hopefully Matt confirms that, not that I'm putting words in your mouth. But I'd like to introduce Matt Amon, partner Waterback and Amon.
Thank you.
Hello, everybody. Thank you, Peggy. Like she said, I'm Matt Barrett, audit partner at Waterback and Amon. As I'm getting into this audit report, I'm trying to keep it at a high level, and if at any point in time, if you have questions, please let me know, and I'd be happy to answer them throughout the presentation. So, as Peggy said, the audit went great again this year. I want to thank Debbie and Peggy for all their hard work getting prepped and ready for us as we came out. Everything was ready as soon as we walked in the door, and every follow-up was answered immediately. So commend them on all their hard work and preparation for this audit. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to start with the audit report itself. It's the thicker of the two documents. Does everyone have bound copies in front of them?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to take a kind of flip through it, show you the pages of which pages I'm looking at. We'll kind of go through this as quickly as we can. About 3 pages in, its page looks like this. It's got a lot of documenting letterhead on it. This is the opinion page. We gave the village a unmodified opinion again this year. It's the highest opinion that we give. Basically what that is saying is the numbers in here are what they say they are, and the accounting standards are, everything is in compliance with the accounting standards required. 2 pages after that is the management discussion and analysis. This section is a summary of everything in narrative format of what is going on in this audit report. Since I'm going to be going over that myself with my presentation, I'm going to flip past this section. At the bottom, you can see that it says MD&A 1, that's MD&A 2. Flip past MD&A 10. We'll get to the actual pages 3 and 4. On pages 3 and 4, it looks like this. Statement of net position. What this financial statement is, it's the summary of all of your funds together into one spot on full accrual accounting, which means on page 3, you have your long-term assets, and on page 4 is your long-term debt. So where I want to point out to you is at the bottom of page 4, your total net position, where are we at the end of the year? You ended up at $2 million, of which about 1.5 million, when you take out capital assets, was restricted or unrestricted, kind of more the cash number. This overall had a decrease this year of 113,000, which had a lot to do with what happened within the governmental fund operations this year. So since that's kind of where we're going, let's go ahead and get to those financial statements. So go forward, please, to page 7. On page 7 is back to fund level accounting for your governmental funds, what you're more used to seeing on a monthly basis when it gets presented to you. In total, across all of your funds for fund balance, you had a total fund balance across them is 1.8 million. Your main operating fund, your general fund, had a total of $1.2 million at the end of the year. So how do we do? Let's go forward to page 9. Page 9 is your income statement. In total, across all of your funds, you can see total fund balance 1.8 million. Above that, two numbers is a total decrease for the year of $197,000, of which this mostly has to do with your general fund. Total across your general fund was a $185,000 decrease. It had planned to be during the budget process about $52,000. Revenues came in pretty consistent with budget. Expenses came in a little bit over with wages, legal, and some planning, media, consulting stuff. But at the end of the day, your fund balance is still at 47% of your total operating expenses. So we're still in a healthy position for your general fund balance at the end of the year. Any questions about your governmental funds? So we go on to water and sewer. All right, flipping forward to pages 11 and 12. 11 and 12 is your financial statements for water and sewer. Page 11 has your balance sheet, page 12 is your income statement. So we're back in full accrual accounting, water and sewer at the bottom of page 11. Total fund balance 3.4 million, of which when you take out capital assets is about 1.4. So how do we do? Let's go forward to page 12. In total, across all the funds, you had across the fund, you had a total increase of 479,000 for the year. Revenues came in over budget by about 40,000. Expenses came in below budget. So really, it was a very good year for water and sewer. Your fund balance is very positive, also between expenses to your fund balances at the end of the year. A very healthy year for the water fund. Any questions about those? Throughout the rest of the audit report, we have all the footnotes and the extra information that's in there that kind of backs up these numbers. I'm just going to point out one more thing I thought you as the board might be interested in. It's on page 54 and 55. We have some additional stats back here on these pages that kind of show your levy information over time, kind of history of your levy. It also has your EAV information. So 54 and 55. At the far right-hand column, kind of where we're at going forward with your levy year 2016, you can see we had an increase again for your EAV for the village from last year to this year. You know, the last 2 years, we're finally starting to see a turnaround in terms of the values around for the village. Also with, the developments that are happening here as well are helping that number. In addition, then below that, you can see where your levy extension has been kept very consistent and kind of had a decrease actually from 15 to 16. So you're going to see over time where you've been going from a levy perspective as well on this page. And that's my presentation on the actual audit report before we get to the management letter. Do you have any questions about the report?
Matt, I wonder if you could go over GASB 68, that was in the first last year.
Yeah.
I know it's kind of main hit, it's a hit to the.
Again, the microphone for the record.
Sorry.
Yeah, I get it. She said to touch on GASB 68 one more time again this year, since it was touched on last year. GASB 68. It's back on page 3 and 4 of your government-wide financial statements. Because this is a liability that basically represents what is yet to be funded to be to 100% funding for your IRF pension. Okay? So in terms of a long-term liability, where you're at in the middle, you can see on page 4, because it's a liability, it's long-term. You had a total liability on the books for IRF is $233,000. This basically represents, because your fund was 79% funded, this is the remaining 21% to get to 100%. This number actually has You went from 72% funded, I believe, in last year's audit up to 79. Had a lot to do with your investments, how they did during the year. That obviously makes a big difference with what your values are that are in your, that you're holding for your pension. As is probably was communicated in the past, this is not really a liability to be worried about. You're doing what you need to be doing from a IRF funding standpoint. The actuary for IRF tells you what to do, and you follow and you've been paying it. So it's kind of more of an informational purpose for you. Any questions about? Yes.
Not just on the valuation
Yeah.
numbers. You know, if you look at the rough numbers here, there was about a $70 million hit to valuation when the Great Recession came, which, given the prior figure, was about 22.5%. And that's almost exactly what came off of the home price of everybody I know in this community. Everybody took between 20 and 30%, so the valuation followed absolutely in line with the residential property valuations on this. So it's bittersweet to see the numbers be confirmed. And I guess you guys can't fix that, so.
We just report the information.
That's right.
That's all we can do. Any more questions about the audit report until we go on to the management letter?
Management letter's great.
I have one
Oh,
question.
please.
Yeah.
I specialize in foolish questions.
Yeah.
On page 55,
Yep.
collections.
Yep.
So we have not received those yet?
Yeah, so that's for your next
Right.
year levy.
Right,
So
okay, next year levy.
when you approved your levy, it's kind of like, it's pretty weird how it works, but tax levy 2016 represents the levy you approved in December of
I
16.
understand, that's why I thought I just want to make sure. Thank
Yeah.
you.
So you start collecting coming up right after the beginning of the year, right after the end of the year. And, you know, as you can see on here, you guys are almost right at 100%.
Sure.
So when you say, this is what we're levying for, you can rest assured you're gonna collect it, unlike maybe some other municipalities around. Anything else?
Actually, I'm sorry to jump in, but I just want to mention while we're on that report, I stuck in your books on page 55, 56, and 57, my loose piece of paper. This is in direct response to Trustee Schaller's questions last year. He had asked about the overlapping for Wakanda and Township and the others. So we don't have a 10-year history of it, but I stuck this in here since you had asked last year, Trustee Schaller. You can see it just for this year at least. Down below, the Wakanda, Protection District, Road and Bridge, and so forth is on here. That's about 3 to 4% of our community is in the Wakanda Township. That's here for your, just for your information. Sorry to interrupt.
No, that's good. All right, with the management letter, this will be pretty quick, there's not a whole lot to report here, which is a good thing. Our management letter is broken up into two parts. We have current recommendations, which are any new management letter comments, and we have prior recommendations, which would be any management letter comment we've given last year with an update of what's happened with it for this year. So I like to break down the management letter comments into about 3 separate types. Informational, more of just like this is what's going on. 2, best practices of things we see out in the industry. And 3, like true internal controls or operational changes. In terms of what we've given you this year, we have 1 new current one, and I would put that under informational category. GASB, the Governmental Accounting Standards Board, has said there's going to be another statement that's going to impact your audit report coming out in 2 years, that you're actually going to have to implement in 2 years. It's called GASB 7475. Basically what we talked about for 68, GASB 67, 68, and with the pension funds, is going to be happening with other post-employment benefits. So, you know, it's not going to be a big impact for you guys with how your structure is set up, but it's something we're going to have to review for 1 year to make sure what truly is the impact for it. But they're basically copying exactly the language from 67, 68 and applying it towards those health insurance for retirees. And we'll obviously be helping you to get this thing implemented as we go. Second part, so prior recommendations, you had 2 in the last year, of which 1 has been implemented. The compensated absences management letter comment from last year has been implemented, so that will be gone from next year's report. The one that is still there is the funds over budget, and I talked about that during the audit presentation for the general fund being over budget. So again, that's more informational purposes for you.
Yeah, those, I married a finance geek, but I don't play one on TV myself, so I want to talk in layman's talk, so forgive me. And,
Yeah, absolutely.
The status on number 1, we're agreed, and I recognize these are terms of art. The comment has not been implemented and will be repeated in the future. We had some extraordinary one-time expenses in the last fiscal year that won't be repeated in the future. And thanks primarily to Trustee Rigby's hard work on a number of issues related to salaries and benefits and job descriptions and so forth. So I wouldn't want someone who looked at this document to look at it in the blind without having additional context. We've done an admirable job. I don't suspect you have a lot of municipal clients who have held the line on no property tax levy increase in the last 4 years. So we take it seriously. Our fund balance has gone, we like it higher than 47. It is still okay, but we'd like it to be better. These one-time expenses affected that, but we will be focusing on that. And as Speedway comes online and begins to create significant new revenue, we think that there will be a full revision of that. You know, the other thing on the bond, I try to look for opportunities to remind folks at home about this. We typically get the second best bond rating, and that's a policy decision on this board, because what keeps us from getting the best one is we refuse to hold a fund balance of 200% or 500% or 800%. And some of the region, some of the communities in the region will hold fund balances that are extraordinarily large in my subjective view, and they get rewarded by the bond rating agencies for it. But it's not our money, and the philosophy of our board has always been, since it's not our money, we keep what is prudent to protect the public fisc and the financial well-being of the community and its health and welfare, but not a penny more, because it's not our money. And we typically rebate it in a de facto informal manner, primarily through the acceleration of road work in the subdivisions or through culvert and drainage repair, which is a great way to refund it because it's administratively simple and it provides an important public works benefit to public health and welfare. So just, I wouldn't want someone to read number 1, funds over budget, and not have some additional context. So not asking you to defend the term of art of the letter, I understand why it's there.
Yeah. And going forward, if there's ever a comment that's like this again, and you want to have a management response written into your management letter to provide more clarity, that is
Thank you.
that is something you can do.
It's wonderful. Thank you. And are you ready for questions from the board?
Yeah, I'm ready. That's the end of my presentation.
Trustee Thompson?
I had mine, thank you.
All right. Trustee Berg?
None, thank you.
Trustee Shelley?
I think, considering everything, I think good shape, so thank you.
Trustee Rigby?
Just want to compliment Peggy and Debbie for the great work, and Bill Bally for his oversight of the processes we have to go. Thank you for your diligence in taking a look at us, and we appreciate your comments.
Yeah, I'll thank you for that. I'll echo the thanks. There are a lot of issues that this board has to lay awake at night worried about. But because of these 2 ladies, and this gentleman, and that gentleman, this area is not one that we ever have to lose a moment's sleep. Not only from a financial prudence and fiscal management perspective, but from an integrity perspective. You hear the horror stories of mayors and city councils who have had terrible experiences. there's a surer chance the sun will rise in the west tomorrow. I think that would happen under Peggy Hirsch's watch. So- And that's about as nice as I can be. So we thank the firm for your sharp number 2 pestle with us.
Thank you, we appreciate it. Look forward to being back again next year to do this process all over again.
Thank you.
Yes, have a good night.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
Okay, trustee Hirsch. Or excuse me, trustee. Treasurer.
Will you call me trustee?
Sure.
No, thank you.
Consider it a demotion.
I'm not a resident, so. Okay, so before you, we have the financial statements for the 3 months ended July 31st, 2017. That puts us through our first quarter for 25% through our fiscal year. Page 2, the flash report. We'll notice, we'll take a look at that and notice our assets, total assets are $2,234,000. Our liabilities and equities are at $2,234,000 with our equity at $1,004,000 and liabilities at $830,000. Fiscal year-to-date revenue for the 3 months is $772,000. Expenses are $618,000 for net income of $154,000. And that's compared to this point last year where we had net income of $195,000. So if we look below the bolded line, we'll pull out our extraordinary expenditures, and you'll see that we have regular operational net income at $162,000 compared to last year at $240,000. This is also, since it's a quarter, we do each quarter look at our quarterly buildup of our non-MFT roadwork, and you'll find that compilation on page 24 of your report. There were no extraordinary expenses this month in July, but you can see for the quarter, everything to date has been spent with Cuba Township. We've got $9,288 of road work, and then it's $26,102 is for the 3 months of contract work. And if we flip forward to the budget is on page 10 and 11. On page 10, we have mostly our revenues. You'll see that we're 30% actual to budget. So we're a little bit higher than the 25% that we're through the year. We have collected, half of our real estate taxes at this point. So that does pull that number up a little bit. On page 11, you'll see our expenses are right at 25% actual to budget. There are 6 expense accounts that are trending a little bit high. Engineering services, legal, mosquito abatement, other consultant donations, and IT services. Those are, substantially over the 25%. Most of these are front-loaded, meaning they have been early in the year, so that percentage is not overly concerning. I just thought I would mention it too, that we are keeping an eye on that, but I'm not concerned by those at this point. Page 12, we have a motor fuel tax fund. There's cash available in there of $412,000. You will note on the warrant tonight, there is a request for LORG, so some of that money is going to go away. Page 16, we have the water sewer fund.
Peggy, will the revenue that comes in from Speedway be accounted for in the motor fuel tax fund?
No, that's going to be, that'll be sales tax.
Okay.
That's general fund. Motor fuel tax is just our monthly allotment from, it's $10,000, $11,000, $12,000 a month.
Can I just quick add to that, because the question I had about Speedway is, refresh my memory of how we budgeted Speedway for this year. Can you recall off the top of your head? In other words, when we anticipated?
I think we anticipated it in September.
October-ish, I think September, October-ish.
We'd have to go and look, but yeah.
Okay.
I think we used 6 months, I think we anticipated.
I don't have it off the top of my head, but there was a detail, or you can talk about the detail.
We had an estimate from Speedway, I believe, and that I think we used 6 months. I think we used, May, June, July, August, September, October. I think we used 6 to 7 months of revenue.
Okay. All right.
So yeah, it's really obviously early to track that now, but we'll keep an eye on that.
Yeah. No, I was just trying to see if we had too much of a phasing issue, meaning when they expect to be up and running versus when we were anticipating.
It's probably off a month, it sounds like from what I'm hearing tonight.
Yeah. Okay.
We do get quarterly, well, they're not quarterly, they're triannual. I get 3 reports a year from the Department of Revenue about sales tax. It's such a lag though. It's usually, like I haven't gotten the last 4 months yet, but we'll track it that way, specifically with Speedway.
Maybe
Is the motor fuel tax then based on per capita?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, so back to page 16, water sewer fund. We have net current assets in there, $1.3 million. We're keeping an eye on that fund as well. We have some large expenditures coming up. We have the water tower painting and then some other pump and well rehab that's going on in there.
And I can't remember, what's the water tower going to cost?
$198. What was the water tower painting?
Water tower painting was a bar.
Barrington,
It was
yeah.
like 40s.
With the original bid was 198 or 200, or the original estimate.
Yeah.
And then-
180-ish estimate.
And then it came in.
Would you just repeat into the microphone for the benefit of the video record?
The original estimate I used was about $190,000. The bid came in around 45.
Wow.
Yeah, it was, we were really.
The reason I ask is, I have 2 daughters, and when I hear the word bargain, I'm automatically suspicious, because it's like shoes.
You need to
So
compare, don't you?
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure.
so in that vernacular, they would have painted the water tower twice because it was such a.
That's right.
At
least. Yeah. Tory Burch would have painted the water tower.
And with a sign.
Okay, let's move to page 20, the open space fund. In the open space fund, we have $143,000 for current operations. That's it for that fund. This month, the activity in the account was $1,600 in rental income, and then some small expenses for the porta potty rental and grass cutting. That's all I have. Any questions on any of the reports?
It looks good. Questions for the treasurer?
I do have a few comments on the warrant, and I'll wait till do that now or after.
Please,
Order.
while you're there.
Okay. It's high this month, it's over $1 million. I don't think we usually request that kind of money. There's 3 bond payments on there, totaling $670,000 for our principal and interest is due in October. So that's a high number this month for that. There's also a request to LORC for $183,000, you'll notice under MFT, and that is for the road construction that was done in Savannah. There's also some higher than normal amounts. Ski-Walt Hamilton is high at around $21,000 in total. However, $15,000 of that is reimbursable. And then I just had one deletion under open space. The bill for Doring for $1,260. That should be deleted. So if you could make that note for the permanent record, Lisa, that was on there by accident. So that's all my comments.
Are there questions for the treasurer? No, and thank you for explaining the large figure and calling it out. It's
Yeah.
always beneficial for folks who watch on television, because sometimes they will, I'll bump into them. at the
If you ever watch the
grocery
meeting
store
and you see we're
someplace.
asking for $1 million,
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
pretty
yeah,
concerning.
no, I thought that was Trustee Burke's wine bill.
Is that reimbursable?
Are there any further questions for the treasurer? If not, then Chair would like a motion to approve in block agenda items 8A through D. A, approve and accept the audited financial statements for fiscal year ending April 30, 2017, Lauterbach and Hamann. B, approve the financial statements as of July 31, 2017. C, pay bills in the amount of $1,119,841.94 as listed on the accounts payable warrant A dated September 5, 2017. And D, pay bills in the amount of $7,644.32 as listed on the accounts payable warrant B dated September 5th, 2017. May I have a motion to approve in block?
So moved.
By trustee Rigby, thank you. May I please have a second? By trustee Thompson, thank you. I'll ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Trustee Rigby,
Aye.
trustee Thompson,
Yes.
trustee Burke,
Yes.
trustee Schaller.
Yes.
President Richardson.
Yes, ma'am, thank you. Okey-doke. Thank you very much, Rigby. Administrators report, Mr. Pauling.
Thank you, Mr. President. We have an update, a quick update on document destruction. I think we talked about this earlier in the spring, but the state of Illinois has granted us the rights to destroy many of our documents that are outdated and no longer require retention. One of the subsets of that information is building plans, which sometimes may be relevant to homeowners. Now, they degrade over time because of the changes in remodeling and things of that sort. But what we'd like to do is get a hold of the people who are in the destruction range in terms of the plans, and let them know if they want to pick up the plans. They can pick up the plans over the next couple of months, and just send them a notification that is the case. We're pretty well overstocked in our file room, so that type of volume reduction would be helpful. We have had a couple of requests from homeowners just to pick them up in the document, in the plans that are ready for destruction. We hate to charge you for copying charges on something we could otherwise give away. So what I'd like to do is implement a plan for those permits and plans that we have where they're within the zone that the state has allowed us to dispose of, offer them to the homeowners over the next couple of months. And if they come and find it, if they don't, then we would destroy them at that point. There's about 6 boxes in total of that zone of properties that would be a help to us rather than holding on to them. So, like I said, there's no specific approvals needed unless the board is uncomfortable with that approach. But we are pretty much filled up in our records room right now. So we're going to get a strategy to get rid of some of that stuff and not throw away some that somebody might want in the future.
Questions?
If I could make a comment, I took a quick tour of the storage room back there. And it's really overcrowded. We need to get rid of some of that stuff. Either rent one of these pod boxes or something to put it in, because that place is a fire hazard.
Some of those documents go back to the very
I know.
beginning. It's remarkable. A lot of history there.
Or we could put it in an annex.
We could fill the barn with it. Further questions for the administrator or comments? All right, thank you. There is no clerk's report tonight, is that correct? Okay, we can move to the reports of the standing committees. We have done quite a bit of work under A, branding and communications, quite a bit of work on this over the last couple of months on the branding side. I think it'll culminate in the marriage of that branding work, which, as Trustee Thompson has noted, really serves as a vision statement to drive objectives, goals, strategies, tactics, projects going forward. Coordinating the work of all the committees. We've seen the PowerPoint and the org charts on this, but I suffice it to say we'll visit hopefully at some point later this fall on maybe a Saturday morning or at some point that's convenient with the Plan Commission when it's fully reconstituted and kind of go over how we're going to bring this new comprehensive plan and the related vision statement that's set forth in the branding statement of the village. An oasis of gracious countryside living where families and businesses may grow and prosper. I can say that by memory. And everybody else is going to say it by memory too. So I have no further report at this time on this other than I appreciate the hard work on this. We spent a lot of time this spring and early summer on it, but I think we've gotten to the right place, so thank you. 11B, Community Relations, Special Events, and Veterans Affairs. Trustee Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. President. Fox River Corridor, McHenry and Lake County Planning Commission met in August. And I started to attend then, and there are people from both, water people from both McHenry and Lake counties. I noted in the handout that they gave us, there are several differences in the recharge maps between McHenry and Lake counties. And subsequent to that meeting, I met with Janet Agnoletti from Baycott and showed her the two maps, and she agrees. And especially so because Lake County's water recharge classification map was really appropriate. So she was able to later discuss the maps with the McHenry people, and they agreed to utilize Lake County's water recharge map. I have the two maps here. I'm going to send this around as a little yellow tag on the bottom. The first page is McHenry County's, and the reverse page is Lake County. To give you an idea of how good Baycott is doing for us regarding water. And then President Richardson asked me to get on the Water Resource Committee, which I did, and that's chaired by Janet Agnoletti from Baycott. And there's a village well water testing program that will begin this October. I have the materials. I'll be giving them to Lisa and to sell to village residents interested in the program. I'm hoping to utilize our website, social media, and direct mail to alert village residents about the program. There doesn't seem to be a historical number of village residents who participated in prior years. So I'm going to ask that we receive that data this year to allow us to begin charting the program's effectiveness for the village. Pardon me. I think I'm approaching puberty. Next, the Lake Barrington Business Development Committee is scheduled for a lunch meeting at Village Hall Thursday, September 14. I volunteered the village to pay the lunch cost. We sent out a survey to members in July so we can have some basic information on member issues and concerns. We will discuss that questionnaire at the meeting. We will also discuss our website's Shop Lake Barrington portal to see how it's working for them and get any information from them that they may feel would necessitate some changes or edits. With regard to Trustee Scheller's note last month about welcoming new enclave owners, I met with Trustee Scheller earlier today. I suggest that we establish a general new neighbor welcome program where we invite all new residents to Village Hall to meet the staff, share our services, and offer information that we want regarding living here. You all received my note about the Battle of the Bands event and how the schools are not in favor of it. However, schools are interested in having their musical groups play. They have, jazz bands and this band and that band and so forth. So I've had some discussions with the schools, and we're trying to have a late October meeting here at Village Hall about 2018 to see if we can get something started then. I'm currently working on a December event at Fire Farm, which involves Santa Claus. More to come. I also asked everyone for their ideas, and I believe you got the note from Lisa. I would welcome your ideas about that event, please. Thank you. Finally, the Veterans of LBS annual Support Our Troops Drive was a resounding success. Village residents, staff, and board members donated over 1,800 pounds of wish list products, over 100 more than the 2016 drive. The Veterans of LBS thank everyone for their generosity, not only this year, but every year. That's my report, Mr. President.
Thank you, and I know next month you're going to attend this briefing on e-cigarette use.
Oh, yes, yes.
And thank you for doing that. That's something that the Lake County Health Department
Yes.
is running, and it seems that the challenges never end.
Yes.
Thank you for that. Questions for Trustee Thompson?
Just a question, how many members are in the Lake Barrington Business Development Council? It'd be interesting to have a list of who's in there, who isn't.
We have a list, there are about 60 in there right now. Honestly, most of them are infrequent respondents to the meetings. So I was hoping that with this questionnaire we sent out that we get the people involved and get them to see that we are interested in assisting them in building their businesses.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to get, a list so we could all.
Oh, sure,
could maybe correct.
absolutely. Yes, I will send Lisa,
Yeah.
I will send Lisa a list. Lisa.
Further questions for trustee Thompson? If not, 11C, economic development, trustee Burke.
Thank you, President Richardson. We've had some discussion on Speedway already. Just to reiterate, construction well underway. Canopy has been erected. Steel is now up for the main building. I don't know if you saw that, President Richardson, since you've been gone. Steel is up for the main building. As little rain as we've had, unfortunately, we had it all at the wrong time when they were digging and trying to put tanks in. So we lost about maybe a week to 10 days of time waiting for that to happen for footings, foundations, and tank installation. So we don't have a definitive date for completion, but feeling like it's going to be nearing the end of October, maybe even early November, and we'll have an update on that shortly. The other exciting activity is the property currently known as Peterson Plaza, soon hopefully to be known as Lake Barrington Commons, purchased by a gentleman named Alex Ulanoff. He came before this board several months ago. He's off to the races. I've had a number of meetings with him, a number of phone calls with him. We met with Bill Balling and I met with him, I guess it was last week. What we asked him to do was present to assist him with efficient permit issuance. One of the problems we were running into, he's moving so quickly that we were having trouble keeping up with how quickly he was moving. So what we asked him to do is just give us a list of what he intends to do in a rough timeline, therefore we can anticipate those needs, as well as we could give him, between Mr. Balling and Mr. Bateman, give him some guidance to make sure that he has everything he needs for his permit application. So what we're doing is being very proactive with his permit application process so that they don't get inadvertently held up, because he really is in a hurry. In a good way. He's doing it the right way. He will be back to us hopefully in the next 10 days with some renderings of what he intends to do with those buildings. And he's going to make some aesthetic changes to the front elevations. He's talking about potentially even borrowing some of the brick and stone look from the Speedway design and incorporating that in the front part of his building. He wants to talk signage. He'd like to put a monument sign that is Lake Barrington Commons, kind of a welcome to Lake Barrington sort of thing. So we're really excited about his vision for the place, and I'm more excited about the fact that he's doing stuff. He's very active. He's not just talking. We run into a lot of people who like to talk about stuff, and he's really getting stuff done. And he's started the process of looking for new tenants. He has indicated that there is a lot, if you're looking at that property from Northwest Highway, there is a lot that is a buildable lot to the left side of that structure, where kind of adjacent to the Horseshoe Grill's patio. Yeah. And so he's even started to talk a little bit about looking at that space. He owns the property, so his goal is obviously to get the most financial benefit. So in many ways, he has a vision that says this has been an underutilized but highly visible piece of property that, with a little TLC and some marketing, some branding, along with the village of Lake Barrington, and capturing that, he thinks that he can really revive that. And if you think about it, it makes a lot of sense, as highly trafficked as Route 14 is. If you have a speedway there, then having other type of amenities there. So we'll keep you posted on that. He's not a big one for coming in here and talking to the board, as he said, so I said we'd be the liaison for that, but if and when he presented for some support, potentially on some matching grant funds for beautification and or signage, that we would talk about wanting to get that in front of all of you, renderings, drawings, the whole 9 yards, so that you would understand what we were asking for if and when it came time to do that. So we could get all that done up front, so there'd be no surprises on what we, if we chose to do as a village, would be investing in the beautification of that property and the inclusion of some new signage on that property. So stay tuned. It's very exciting, and he's happy to be here and sees a lot of possibility, a lot of potential. And, the last piece about, President Richardson, you alluded to really sort of the notion of branding, the notion of the comp plan and all these pieces coming together. We've talked about getting ourselves in seating a new administrator over the coming months. All these pieces really are important to come together so we can write our economic development plan. We can resource it properly, we can budget for it properly, and we can get it well known to everyone what we're trying to get done. So admittedly that it's been a bit opportunistic and ad hoc, and we're doing fine with that, but we need to up our game that all these pieces needed to come together. So I expect this to happen in the coming months in the fall, where all those pieces coming together allow us to really dictate an economic development plan and get aggressive.
I think that's terrific, and one of the things that raises is just spot on. And it's something that we should work with Peggy and Debbie on for the next fiscal year, which is to give defined budgets to the committees.
Yeah.
So that they can get stuff done.
Yeah, and in all fairness, we had some conversation on this budget and anticipated a few things that we wanted to do. So some of that has been captured, particularly on the economic development side, but we haven't not yet fully utilized that. And we'd like to make it much more formal. We just took a bit of a swag and said we know there's going to be some additional activity, so let's put some additional funds there. We didn't really earmark it for anything specifically. So more to come on that front. It'll be an exciting time for us. And I think the perfect timing when people, particularly on that Route 14 Speedway completion, if behind that they see the aesthetic changes happening, people are going to say, hey, there's some stuff going on there, right? Wrapping right around the corner on Pepper. So I think we can take advantage of that, particularly from a branding standpoint, that we're open for business, and that's an area that we really want to continue to develop. And that's my report.
That's a terrific one. Thank you. Are there questions for Trustee Burke?
Just an idea, a concept, since you're talking about the Lake Barrington Commons, you need, if Alpass could change it to Lake Barrington Marketplace.
Yeah.
The tie-in Lake Barrington, kind of north end and south end, we got Lake Barrington covered with our centers.
Nice idea.
Getting some visibility with the farmer's market, now we could take them up a notch and take advantage of that, the gateway, it's kind of the gateway coming down 59.
I'm happy to take it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Still fun.
It's a good idea. Thank you.
Further questions or comments for Trustee Burke? Okay, external relations. I will be attending next month, or at the end of this month rather, the Community Leaders of America, which is the Republican Mayors Association. Each party has their own, and then of course there are the nonpartisan groups of the National League of Cities and the U.S. Conference of Mayors, where I'm also active on this. As is my custom, I do have the village pay the conference fee, but I pay all the travel, the hotel, the airfare, and everything else for myself. Yeah, that's right. That's right. That's where that figure came in from the budget. So I will report back on that. One of the things that I know they're looking at for the agenda, and I think when a new administrator comes on board, it's going to be a very topical subject. What cities need to know about cybersecurity. And I've learned more and more about this through the U.S. Conference of Mayors as well. Both organizations have done prior panels on this. The cloud actually provides more cybersecurity than if we host our servers here, or even a standard vendor hosts them off-site, because the big cloud providers really have the capabilities of threat identification and defense and backups and safeguards that even smaller vendors don't have. I also learned there's a difference between the cloud and remote hosting, and that a lot of companies that claim they do cloud really don't. They really do remote hosting. And the level of the level of rigor around the investment in making sure that you have the best capable defenses and so forth is really, in a layman's way, for me to understand the difference between the two. I think we did a bit of a tech upgrade here, did the phone system recently, some other things. But this issue is one that's captured. I mean, both the Arizona and the Illinois State Board of Elections got hacked before the last election. So that's what I will be doing in the external relations area. 11E is finance, HR, and administration. Trustee Rigby, you've been awfully busy.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have no report tonight.
No. Actually, that makes me happy to hear. Oh, golly. 11F, open spaces and village facilities. Trustee Mitchell is excused in his absence tonight. He is out of the state.
I just have a comment. Former trustee Lauren Jason brought to our attention some issues with the Fryer farm, and I would hope that perhaps, you sent me some pictures of the path and various other things that before our barn stump, and I really need to, I don't know if you've seen any of these, but she sent them to me. I think she sent them to Bill and Lisa as well. But, that needs some attention before the barn stump.
Yeah, she spoke to me about this at an event recently, and I believe, Bill, you're looking to...
We've actually got Trillium engaged to straighten the path and do something with the weeds, or I'm sorry, the natural plantings. Because they are overrun. I mean, we don't have a lot of foot traffic back there. So they were spraying down and eradicating some of them on the paths, but there's still erosion on the path, so we're going to get them. And if they can't do it soon, we'll get someone else to straighten out the path because there's some erosion that we're going to have to tend to. And that's going to be a continuing thing because of the slope and the weather, the drainage patterns. So,
Didn't we usually cut the hill before the barn stump too?
Hill is going to be cut. I think we've got a schedule for, I don't know if we got 1 or 2 cuttings, but it's, yeah,
It's scheduled yet, but it will be.
we'll get it done so it looks nice and clean.
Yeah, the kids roll down the hill and right now they get caught in the thistles.
Yeah, you want to do that today.
Good, thank you.
Are there further questions regarding open space and village facilities? And thank you, former trustee DeJason, for calling this out. They bush hogged that to cut the growth, and then fixing this in a way. And thank you for engaging Trillium. I think that's most appropriate. 11G, public safety and gated communities. Trustee Scheller.
Well, we have Sergeant Kyle Brown here tonight on behalf of the Lake County Sheriff's Department, and they did have some alerts as to events that were taking place on car thefts, burglaries, and various other things. So, Sergeant, thank you for standing tall for this tonight.
No, thank you very much for having me. Thank you. Yes, I'm Kyle Brown from the Sheriff's Office. I was just recently promoted to sergeant. So prior to this assignment, I was a detective for the last 5.5 years, where I specialized in school safety and criminal investigations. So just a little bit of my background. I hope to see my face some more in the coming months and years. But yeah, I did some homework before I came in, and there's nothing significant going on in the Lake Barrington report. But just to reiterate, you probably heard this before. Let your residents know to remain vigilant and keep their cars locked to prevent those crimes of opportunity. If you have to leave your car unlocked, please don't leave your personal items like electronics, checkbooks, social security cards, things that would facilitate identity theft, things that could end up on the dark web, anything like that. Other than that, we would also ask, please, you're not bothering us if you need to call a deputy if anything suspicious is going on. Especially with the elderly, senior citizens, online scams, we're still seeing somewhat. Nothing of a major concern here in Lake Barrington, but always a problem. Also anything in person. While we haven't really seen it in this area, we have seen some unorganized but organized crime, door-to-door con artists, burglars, looking to do their distraction techniques or do the jobs, driveway seal coating, roofing, things like that. And we would just ask and remind residents, please call us, call the deputy to come over to the house if anything looks suspicious. Remind them that if anyone is legitimate, they will stay around. Anyone who's not legitimate is going to flee the area. So please, you're not bothering us, please give us a call and let us know.
See suspicious vehicles in the driveway that aren't normally there to give you a call?
Absolutely, because what could it hurt?
Yeah.
And a lot of times what we hear is, I didn't want to bother you guys, please, bother us. It's fine.
Thank you. Thanks for coming over. And I'm privileged to enjoy, as a number of us are here, a great personal friendship with your boss, Sheriff Curran, who is truly one of the great people. What a wonderful man, a tremendous leader.
The longest serving sheriff in the county, if I recall.
Yeah, and the county is the better for it. You know, the things that, among the things that I worry about in terms of public safety, the things you mentioned are all spot on. The other ones are the opioid crisis. We've had expressions of that in a community like as nice as this. It's a terrible thing. And at a time when some in law enforcement scratch their heads and wonder if the public backs them up, take it to the bank that Lake Barrington stands behind our cops.
Thank you.
No questions asked.
Thank you.
So thank you for that, because you risk your lives for us, and we're grateful. We're grateful for that. Because this scourge of opioid addiction, it's probably the biggest public health crisis in the country.
Yes, it is.
Further questions for our guest for started tonight, or comments?
Just a comment, congratulations on your promotion.
Yes.
It's obviously well deserved, and you earned it.
Actually, prior to, like I said, doing this, I did school safety. I had a very good working relationship with North Barrington Elementary, the principal over there. I did have some connection to the community through the school.
Appreciate it. Just to reiterate, like you're saying, over 90% of the cars burglarized this summer could have been prevented by locking your door.
And that also includes
95% of the cars stolen in Lake County this summer had spare keys left inside.
That's all.
And key fobs.
Yes, the fobs.
Key fobs. You leave your key fob in there, or you put your key fob in the garage.
Yes.
When people get in the garage, you get the key fob in the garage, they take your car. Gone in the morning.
And don't forget, if you're not home and your car is unlocked and your garage door opener is in your car, they now have access to your home just by opening your garage door. So please, keep your car locked.
Keep your car locked. Yeah.
Keep your valuables out of sight, prevent the crime of opportunity. We're not seeing forcible entries.
Yeah, that's.
Or rarely, we do see forcible entry.
I grew up in the main road, we never had to lock our door. Well, you better lock it now.
Further questions?
Thank you.
Congratulations and welcome. We look forward to a long relationship.
As far as the Barrington Countryside Fire Protection District, they are having an antique fire truck show down on Pepper Road along with Pepperfest this Saturday from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Since we invited them to have a touch of truck up at the farmer's market, they have afforded us an opportunity to set a little table down there for the antique fire truck show. We're going to help promote the village and various other activities. So, but it's a neat event, Pepperfest, and then the antique fire truck, which was originally going to be held earlier this year, going to be 11 to 2 on Saturday down there. So it's some interesting trucks. Also, the fire department is launching a their families are launching a diaper drive for Hurricane Harvey relief victims that just came out today. Help keep Texas dry. I think Sandy Atosi, who's one of the department's wives, is organizing this. So residents and businesses who'd like to support the diaper drive encouraged to donate following items through September 26th. The various items, infant, child's diapers, pull-ups, things like that. And they'll be collecting those down there at the Antique Fire Truck Show, along with the Fox River Grove Fire Department and the Lions Club of Fox River Grove are pledging to assist in that. We are having an emergency preparedness planning meeting next Thursday, September 14th at 1:30 p.m. at the Barrington Village Hall. Periodically, BACOG does this in connection with Good Shepherd Hospital. So we're having a planning meeting to discuss what type of an emergency event we're going to be considering. So I will be attending that as well. As far as the Enclave, Andy Keener, they're having their annual meeting September 12th. They still have 5 lots remaining to be sold. These are under contract, anticipated closing in the coming weeks. They have 3 lots under construction, anticipated construction on 2, and the property management, on-site safety signs, speed limit, and children play all have been installed. And as far as Tallgrass, in connection with their event on September 9th, they're having a Mama Cuisine cooking class at Tallgrass. So if you want to go and take a look at Tallgrass at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, it's an open house event. Actually, the open house goes from 1 to 5. but they have complimentary snacks and tour, their great selection of homes. I didn't get an update on that, but I think they're coming along pretty good as far as selling some lots, so that's the end of my report. And of course, the farmer's market continues through the end of September. And they had a nice fish boil at Lake Barrington shores on Friday. Up on the beach, it was actually pretty nice. Better than some of the Door County fish boils.
Did Mother Nature cooperate?
It was a beautiful, little cool, but it was nice evening. Yeah, once the sun went down, it got a little cool, but they had a little entertainment on the beach. Everyone was dancing on the beach by the time the event was over. It was a nice event.
Police work with a police call.
Police call? Yeah, no, fire, no, that's right. They're gonna have a bonfire there October, maybe they will have a police call.
The thing that's so reassuring about what's going on in Tallgrass and Enclave is certainly demographics change and housing trends reflect those changes in demographics. But our brand really reflects the historical preference of our community for single-family detached housing and low-density, lots of green space, or a PUD approach such as LPS. And you know, one of the things that wasn't talked about nearly as much, and was reading last week the comp plan draft that really got me thinking about this. And some of you may have observed this in your business careers. When industries change or consolidate, and the rules of the industry changes, and therefore forces consolidation, there's always a last man standing. I was a young lobbyist representing defense contractors when the Soviet Union fell, and you know, you got a lot of mergers back then. Grumman and Northrop became Northrop Grumman. Martin Marietta and Lockheed became Lockheed Martin. And there were 3 or 4 of them that survived through acquisition as the industry consolidated. There will certainly be consolidation in traditional housing stocks. But because we know who we are and what it is we seek, we can take the long view. And the fact that the market is showing that single-family detached houses are selling in Enclave and Tallgrass is validation that our vision, even if the overall market is smaller over time, will allow us to prevail amongst the remaining competition. And it's just something that, reading last week, the draft comprehensive plan, it kind of focused it in my mind and made the work we did earlier in the year even more relevant. So just I thought I'd add that.
I think we're fortunate too that we have both like Kinsey and Taylor Morrison. We have 2 good developers working in those areas. And I think that's a compliment again to the village that they even want to be here, but they're doing a nice job in developing what they have, and we're fortunate to have them.
Agreed. Thank you for pointing it out. The 11H is roads and infrastructure. Pitch hitting tonight is Mr. Paul.
Thank you, Mr. President. 2 things to report. First of all, we've actually had a very successful program with the construction overlay at the Savannah subdivision. We're just about done with that. We've got a major payment that goes on the warrant this evening, and we feel good about that. Obviously, the second phase will occur in the 2018 year with the western edge of that subdivision. But for those that may not have been able to drive in, it turned out real nice and reflects the specifications that we wanted to see there in terms of finishing. The broader question that you assigned to this committee after the summer storms was in the area of drainage. And Karen Dalton Lang, Jeff Perry, our village engineer, and myself have been and will continue to meet on coming up with solutions and strategies to address things. And in that regard, we have updated and I'll say as more than a revision and change, the drainage policy has been in draft form for the last 2 years, and tweak that a little bit to make it a little more relevant. It'll be important educating the public, which is also a role in the drainage committee, is to explain the difference between drainage and flooding. We were extremely fortunate. We did not flood as a community. The properties that took water inside generally were due to sump pump failure, which is a preventable, maintainable private sector kind of responsibility. But compared to other Lake County communities, we've done pretty well. That being said, we've got a fairly complex and natural-oriented drainage system. One of the Fox River gets high, everything goes slower. And we're looking for solutions and checking issues to see if there's something that can be done to make that more efficient. But ultimately, our proximity to the Fox and the reliance on the Tower Lake Drain area, the Fen, some of these other natural areas are really driven by the elevation of the Fox. So that's part of it. We did look at every subdivision just in terms of inventory, what everybody told us this summer that was they were experiencing. We had about 13 different subdivision areas where inquiries have come in and the questions have come in. We're trying to find legitimate solutions to those problems. Some of these are naturally driven, elevation driven, and again, some of it is soils driven with regard to the hybrid soils that we have in some of our areas. I mean, we all know we have a high water table in town. Some of that in areas is more dramatic than elsewhere, and that also drives subsurface drainage and somewhat usage. So that's part of the problem. And then the other issue is once we have an overall strategy for dealing with it, the ultimate question that's going to come into this board is how do you allocate resources and who really pays? There's a lot of channels and opportunities, but ultimately, some of the things that we're discussing and presented to the board, even if feasible, are dramatically more expensive than things that we've looked at in the past in terms of, and it may not be things that would be prudent to do or even permitted to do because we're still driven by Lake County stormwater management rules and guidelines and certification. So my expectation is that later this fall we'll be coming back to you with a sort of a series of this is the strategy, this is our assessment, this is a strategy looking forward, here's an updated policy to use and present, here's how we'd like to educate and present that to the public so they have a clear understanding of that. And then when we do have things, what role do subsets of this population play? If you have a subdivision problem, if there is a solution, how is it funded? So those are the things we're working on. We've made good progress so far, but this will continue into the fall, and we'll bring you back something that will be significant and something the board can chew on.
Marvelous. Thank you. Are there questions for the administrator in this regard? Okay, agenda item 12, there is no old business, so we can move to the ordinances. We discussed a couple of these in the committee of the whole. 13A is a consideration of an ordinance amending the village code regarding the village website and social media use policy. We've actually been working on this for quite a while. Jim Thompson and John Scheller have put in some effort to, I don't know when Jim Thompson sleeps. He spends a lot of time on this stuff. So I think it's a good policy. I think it makes sense. The second one in the ordinance is the fees and deposits issue. This is something that I'll ask council to comment on. We'll go to the new IML RMA Intergovernmental Cooperation Contract. And then we'll batting cleanup under ordinances is an ordinance regarding Chapter 6 municipal officers and employees. And it's really to implement the findings of the study and the recommendations that came out of the effort that Trustee Rigby so ably led to look at making sure we have current, effective, clear, and transparent position descriptions for our employees. So we're going to get through these fairly quick because I think we've discussed them before, but we'll start with 13A, consideration of an ordinance amending the Village of Lake Barrington Village Code, Title I Administration, amended Chapter 18, Village Website and Social Media Use Policy. Does any trustee seek recognition for comment on this issue before I call for a vote? Chair would therefore like a motion.
So moved.
By Trustee Thompson, second. By Trustee Scheller, I'll ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Trustee Thompson?
Yes.
Trustee Scheller?
Yes.
Trustee Burke?
Yes.
Trustee Rigby?
Aye.
President Richardson?
Yes. 13B, consideration of an ordinance amending Chapter 10, Fees and Deposits of Title I Administration of the Village of Lake Barrington Village Code. Prior to calling the question, Chair will recognize the village attorney.
This ordinance codifies in the village code the fact that any person who wishes to submit any plans, specifications, or other documents to the village for the village's approval or consideration, that any debts owed by that person or entity be paid in full. This particular type of ordinance has been recently upheld as constitutional by the Illinois courts, and accordingly we recommend that it be included in the village's code.
Are there questions for the village attorney? There being none, Chair would like a motion.
So,
By trustee Burke, may I please have a second?
Second.
By trustee Rigby, thank you both. Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Burke.
yes.
Trustee Rigby.
Aye.
Trustee Schaller.
Yes.
Trustee Thompson.
Yes.
President Richardson.
Yes. 13C, consideration of an ordinance approving and authorizing the execution of a new IML RMA intergovernmental cooperation contract. Prior to calling the question, Chair will recognize the administrator for comments.
Thank you. The Illinois Municipal League runs a risk management pool of which we are members. Their managing board has recommended 2 changes that all members must consider. One relates to the assignment of administrative duties, which is formerly by a committee, now to an executive director. And the other one changes for departing members a notice from 60 to 120 days. Other than that, there are really no further changes in the terms and conditions of our original contract would continue. This is a good organization for communities, especially good for smaller communities, and we would recommend adoption of those changes.
All right. Questions for the administrator? There being none, Chair would like a motion.
So moved.
By trustee Rigby, thank you. Seconded by trustee Thompson. Thank you, gentlemen. Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Rigby.
Aye.
Trustee Thompson.
Yes.
Trustee Burke.
Yes.
Trustee Schaller.
Yes.
President Richardson.
Yes, and the Chair would like a motion for necessary and conforming amendments. I failed to mention the ordinance numbers in the preceding items. Let's just, for the record, 13A would be 2017-0-16.
16.
Thank you. 13B would be 2017-0-17, and 13C would be 2017-0-18. And as we move to 13D, an ordinance amending the Lake Barrington Village Code regarding Chapter 6, Municipal Officers and Employees of Title I Administration. Prior to calling the question, Chair will recognize the administrator.
Thank you. As you indicated, Mr. President, we worked with Trustee Rigby to organize a study and assessment of positions and job classifications. Our positions in Lake Barrington are codified, meaning they're included in the municipal code. They were somewhat dated. We repositioned all of the employee duties and responsibilities to actual conditions and expectations, in some cases modifications to title. All that has been incorporated into this ordinance, will then appear in the municipal code. We recommend its approval.
All right, questions for the administrator? There being none, Chair would like a motion to adopt ordinance 2017-0-19 as presented. May I have that motion, please?
So moved.
By trustee Rigby, thank you. Seconded by trustee Burke. Trustee Thompson, excuse me. Clerk, will please call the roll.
Trustee Rigby.
Aye.
Trustee Thompson.
Yes.
Trustee Burke.
Yes.
Trustee Schaller.
Yes.
President
Yes,
Richardson.
thank you. Agenda item 14A, consideration of a resolution approving and authorizing the execution of an intergovernmental service agreement between the Village of Lake Barrington and the Cuba Township Road District. Prior to calling the question, Chair will recognize the administrator.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is a resolution approving and authorizing an intergovernmental agreement between Cuba Township Road District and the Village of Lake Barrington to provide basically road drainage and other general public works services that on a contractual basis. We have had a relationship with the county for some time. However, our agreement expired, and we were looking for a new direction and structuring both of understanding the value and benefits of the program to the village. And this resolution and agreement, I think, reflects the best thinking of both staff and the highway the road district. I do want to take just a moment to thank TJ Podgorski, the new commissioner of roads. He worked extremely hard to answer the questions of the village, to come up with some good solutions to complex contractual issues, and did a real good job for us. And I'm sure that our service level, which really was never in question, will improve under his leadership. So it's greatly appreciated. We think this is a good deal. The important part of this package is that it extracts the value. This board purchased, the township was in some financial stress, a new snow plowing equipment that now the township wants to purchase back from us. And this contract gives us service credits for about 3.5 years that would allow us to buy down the cost of the contractual services in a fair and appropriate way. It also provides for some opportunities for changes in our relationship, including the continued rent structure and use by the township of one of our buildings on the fire farm, and also some properties in Wakanda Township that have expressed, at least at some level, interest in returning to Wakanda Township service rather than Cuba Township service. Those are provided for in this agreement. Should this village board like to move in that direction in the future. So I'm very pleased with the agreement. I wasn't pleased with the time it took us to get to the conclusion, but I think it was a good race, and we're finishing with our heads high. So I would recommend its approval.
Marvelous. Are there questions for the administrator? There being none, Chair would like a motion to pass resolution number 2017-R-18.
18.
Thank you. Resolution approving and authorizing the execution of an intergovernmental agreement with the Cuba Township Road District. May I have that motion? It's moved by Trustee Berg, seconded by Trustee Schaller. The clerk will please call the roll.
Trustee Berg.
Yes.
Trustee Schaller.
Yes.
Trustee Rigby.
Aye.
Trustee Thompson.
Yes.
President Richardson.
Agenda item 15, new business. A, Plan Commission modifications to the Village of Lake Barrington sign code. Chair will recognize the administrator.
Yes, this is really a formality. We did present this in workshop earlier in the spring to the village board, but never teed it up for a full review by the Plan Commission. This would refer the matter to the Plan Commission. Ultimately, their action, the recommendation would require board action, but it would modernize and make appropriate the sign standards. The village attorney has identified some weaknesses on our current sign code, and this would repair some of those deficiencies. So we're hopeful for a recommendation by the end of the year back to the village board.
And Chair will further recognize council for additional comments as desired.
In 2015, the U.S. Supreme Court held in the case of Reed versus Town of Gilbert's that all sign regulations must be content neutral. And this means even the types of signs, you can't have regulations that differentiate between a political sign or a community event sign. They're very strict in terms of this decision. Was very strict in terms of the how it deemed a sign to be content neutral. Based on this case, we have prepared a recommended amendment to the village code that would make all sign regulations content neutral in compliance with this U.S. Supreme Court decision, such that it would any sort of categorization of signs based on the content. You have to read it. You can't. That doesn't apply to change in regulations to be either based on permanency or whether or not the sign is permanent or temporary, the location of the sign, design-based sign regulations, as well as sign regulations as to private property versus sign regulations for public property. So that is why we're recommending the changes to the sign regulations.
Are there questions for the administrator or for council? There being none, the chair would like a motion to refer proposed changes to the sign code to the Plan Commission for review and recommendation. May I have that motion, please?
Second.
By Trustee Rigby, seconded by Trustee Thompson. Thank you both. The clerk will please call the roll.
Trustee Rigby.
Aye.
Trustee Thompson.
Yes.
Trustee Berg.
Yes.
Trustee Schaller.
Yes.
President Richardson.
Under agenda item 16 is the second opportunity in the agenda for the public to address the board on non-agenda items. There is no one seeking recognition. There is no need for closed session. Under 18, I'll just mention this. We had 2 items on the committee of the whole agenda that we were unable to find time to address tonight. And so Chair will ask unanimous consent that the board hold a committee of the whole meeting. It's proceeding its October meeting on the 13th of October for the purpose of discussing those items unaddressed here tonight. Without objection, so ordered. And now our favorite agenda item, Chair would like a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned.